Joining me now, as he does each and every week, is Sky News Australia's media watchdog columnist, Gerard Henderson. Thanks for joining us on the desk.
Pleasure.
Well, let's get straight into it because Sabra Lane, one of your favourite journalists at the ABC, I think it took 20 words from the Shadow Energy Minister, Ted O'Brien, before she interrupted. Let's have a listen.
Yes, he got in 20,
Interest rates could go up next year following the hotter-than-expected inflation reading yesterday. Several economists are now changing their forecast to say the bank will probably lift rates next. What particular policy decision would you make right now if you were Treasurer to take that pressure off to stop that from happening?
Sabra, the first decision I would make would be to introduce quantifiable fiscal rules for the budget. So ever since Peter Costello... let me explain what...
Now, I have to correct, he's a shadow treasurer, not shadow energy minister.
Well, what Ted O'Brien was saying was perfectly reasonable. He wants to do what Peter Costello did, which is to put certain fiscal limits down that governments have to meet. And it worked well in the Howard government, so it's a reasonable proposition. But Sabra Lane can't wait to interrupt him, and she says, "Whoa!" And then he says, but in the official transcript that that AM's put out, that's removed. So if you look at the transcript, she didn't say it at all.
They've rewritten history.
Yeah, but if you watch the media report, you know she did.
Now, you've got an interesting topic to discuss involving Kim Williams and a speech at a museum. Tell us more.
Well, as you know, Kim Williams is the chair of the ABC, and they had at the Museum of Contemporary History, the Museum of Australian History in Canberra, it's the old Parliament House, they had, believe it or not, a seven-hour reminiscence of the dismissal of the Whitlam Labor government in November 1975, and overwhelmingly the people there were critical of Sir John Kerr, the Governor-General who dismissed Whitlam. They weren't all that critical of Malcolm Fraser. They're very praiseworthy of Gough Whitlam, particularly at the beginning. And so Kim Williams comes on and speaks. He says partly because he's, by marriage, a member of the Whitlam family and he knew Gough, and partly because he's concerned with democracy, but he also says he's speaking on behalf of the ABC because essentially he wants to correct facts. I mean, if you'll listen to what he's saying, and that's pretty well his pitch.
Let's have a listen.
It's my great pleasure to follow Her Excellency as the Museum of Australian Democracy reflects on one of the most monumental days in our nation's political history. I come wearing three hats. The first is a relative by marriage of the Whitlam family, with views on the dismissal, some gained in part through extensive discussions with Gough Whitlam himself. The second is chairman of the ABC, with a duty of promoting objective, informed public debate. The third, as a citizen and great believer in democracy, free speech and open discussion.
Well, Mr. Williams made a number of very controversial points. I mean, there is an argument between people who believe Malcolm Fraser on this and people who believe John Kerr as to whether Kerr tipped off Fraser, and Fraser only said it many years later. But Williams sides sides against Kerr and sides with Fraser. So that's one issue. Now, he also says that implies that if Kerr had delayed the decision, supply may have passed because some Liberals would have broken away. There's no evidence for this. And he also says later on that if only Kerr had allowed a half-Senate election, it would have resolved the issue. Now, Paul Kelly is a strong critic of John Kerr, but Paul Kelly says a half-Senate election never would have worked. So what you have is the chairman of the ABC speaking on behalf of the ABC, speaking in what he calls facts, making controversial statements in a speech which went for, believe it or not, 13 minutes, a very pompous speech. And if he just did it as a member of the Whitlam family, fine. If he did it as a political commentator, fine. But when he says he's doing it as chairman of the ABC, that's quite different.
Yeah, because it's contested. It needs to be made clear. Now, Nikki Sava's new book, Earthquake, got a good run on the ABC. Let's have a watch.
They have an identity crisis, they have an existential crisis. We are watching the Liberal Party disintegrating before our eyes. Anybody who thinks that the net zero issue is finally settled inside the federal coalition, I think, is having themselves on. I think that will continue to play out and probably still have quite serious repercussions. I mean, when I was talking to people for my book, which is out tomorrow.
We're about to talk about the book. There it is, hold it up for us. Earthquake, the book, Nikki. Congratulations on Earthquake. It's just been released.
I liked the noise.
Yay. That's what the kids say. Yay.
With delight.
And with delight. So she managed to flash the book.
Yeah.
And then she complained that Susan Lee wouldn't talk to her. But when you look at what she says about all the other Liberals in the book, I don't think she's missed out on anything. And also Susan Lee may have read Nikki Sabra's Confessions of a Conservative Lefty, which she wrote in 2010, whatever that means. And in that book she says politicians should lie, but it's okay if journalists do. And maybe Susan Lee's read the book and a bit wary, you know.
Now, I know we like to plug books. We've plugged your book before.
But I didn't flash it.
We're not. I did for you though. I think it's a great read. Yeah. But should the taxpayer be paying for all the broadcast and the studio and the cameras for Nikki Sabra to get up there and say, "Buy my book"? It's a bit of a strange area.
It is a strange area. I'm not so fussed about that, but. I mean, there are different ways of doing it. I mean, she introduced the book, sort of, and flashed it and said, yay. but she's done it all the time. I mean, this is every time she has
do
a
it for
book,
their mates.
She has something on Sunday, and the problem is that she gets chosen, but other people who write books, they don't get chosen.
What about the plug for your book?
What about the plug for my book? Well, I've been cancelled by the ABC, so and my book is sort of not known. It's like it has never existed. So... there you go. I'm sort of...
Well, I guess that's my point. They curate who gets to go on, and then when they've got their mates who all think the exact same way, and they've got their commercial projects that are these little side hustles, they give them a run, and who pays for it? The taxpayer.
And they love someone like Nikki Sabra, who once worked for the Howard government, although she was a lefty. Yeah. But she criticises the Liberal Party, and they love someone who's a former Liberal Party staffer who's bagging the Liberal Party. It's a sure way to get on.
They love those Malcolm Turnbulls.
Malcolm Turnbull, they love him.
Gerard Henderson, thank you so much for joining me.